What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Porsche Cup lap guide in the Fix series. This week we're at Suzuka, and man, I forgot what a challenge this track is. Every corner and every curb is so unique, and yet they all seem to want to put you under the wall. It takes so much time, effort, and practice to figure out exactly what this 992 needs to go quickly around here. So let me take you for a lap and show you all the tricks that I've learned. Coming across the line to start a fast lap, and this is one of the few tracks where I'm actually changing the brake bias mid-lap. If you look at the dash, you can see we're at -5 right now as we head into the double apex right-hand turn 1. We're braking just before this sand-colored box on our left, only braking about 75% pressure though. And we lift off the brake as we come into the apex. If you have too much brake pressure, the car will get loose and it's more likely to spin. We keep lifting off the brake as we just miss this curb on the left. If you touch that curbing on the left, it'll make your car unstable and again more likely to spin. So we're just missing that curbing on the left, trail braking all the way into the apex. It's a really tricky exit out of this complex though, because the apex is banked but the exit isn't. So you have a ton of grip and then all of a sudden you don't. But we're hard on the throttle, being mindful of the exit, making sure not to oversteer, going into 4th gear, setting up a series of sweeping fast corners. The key to this complex is being light on your inputs, lifting off early, and getting on throttle early. It's really easy to overdrive one of these corners, which ruins the rest of the series and destroys your lap time. But we're just lifting off in 4th gear, floating speed through the apex, downshifting to 3rd as we touch the apex, and then a slight brush of the brakes. I should mention we're already back at -5.5. I already changed our brake bias. Just tapping the brake, and then again, hard on the throttle, not going all the way to the left here, but immediately turning left and trying to clip this apex curbing. We just miss it, but we want to get our left side tires on that green apex curbing, hard on the gas, going all the way over to the right, and then braking as soon as we hit this curbing on the right, coming about 3 feet off of the curbing, and then tucking it back in, hard on the gas, trying to get the car all the way to the right to set up the most important corner of the sequence because it leads onto the longest straight of the sequence. So we're trying to set up our right tires to be just outside this dark rubbered-in racing line. And we're aiming to get a late apex as we go up into 4th gear, but we just barely clip that apex curbing, and that unsettles our car, so we have to save it right here. The car is twitching and nervous all the way through this corner, but the later apex you get on that previous curb, the more stable the car feels all the way through this corner. Up into 5th gear, braking right here, down into 4th gear, trying to miss this apex curb, just barely clipping it, and then using a ton of the road on the left. Our left side tires outside of that dark green strip, braking down into 3rd gear, touching the apex curbing, then hard on the gas, using all this exit curbing up into 3rd, 4th gear, setting up a really challenging braking zone. We are flat as we enter this right-hander, but then there's immediate brake into a hairpin left. So we're braking just before the end of this curbing on the right, lifting off slightly earlier to help balance the car. So we're in 4th gear, slightly lifting off, and then we're immediately hard on the brakes, and we're pointing our nose at the apex. We want to minimize the steering input to keep the car as stable as possible. So we're braking hard into the apex, all the way down into 1st gear, and then I immediately shift up into 2nd gear, hard on the throttle, a little kick of oversteer, run out all the way to the exit curbing on the right, and then keep the car all the way to the right. And even though this is a straight, we're turning all the way through, and I like to apex at this little green curbing on the right here. So we're in 4th, 5th gear, and then we have another apex curb right here on the right, that red and white curbing, keep it close there, and then we're coming into a really tricky double apex left-hander. So we're braking just before this access road on the right, down into 3rd gear, getting a really early apex on this left-hand curb, and that will shoot us out wide, but we want to use as much of this curbing on the right as possible. So I'm aiming to get my right side tires onto that neon green AstroTurf. If you keep your right side tires on the darker green or the red and white curbs, the car will be much more unstable in addition to having a narrower turning radius. So we're using that neon green curbing, we're lifting off the throttle, trail braking all the way into this apex, then getting on the gas hard, using as much of the exit as we can into 4th gear. We use slightly too much and get an off track, but I won't tell if you don't. Up into 5th, 6th gear, take a deep breath, coming into 130R, a really fast left-hander. And we're going to be braking here just in between this 50 board and this pole right here. It's a quick brake down into 5th gear, then we're immediately off the brake, clipping this apex curb, hard on the gas, running the car out wide, and we're using this curbing on the right. Again, the more curbing you can use, the faster you go, but you have to be careful because the car will be unstable. And then we're setting up the final braking zone into the chicane. It's really tough to see my brake marker, but there's sand on the road, and just at the end of this sand is where I'm braking, right about here. But what makes this braking zone so challenging is it curves to the right. So naturally your hands want to follow this, but as we know, any steering input while we're braking will cause the brakes to lock up. So we want to aim to keep our car in a straight line braking. So we're aiming just to the left of these cones in front of us, braking down into second gear, and then lifting off as we turn and clip this apex curb A burst of the throttle, a little bit too much. We get a bit of understeer. Coming out to this exit curbing, and the last challenge of the track is this final exit curbing. You want to keep your tires on the red and white or on the dark green, but not all the way over to the neon green. We just get slightly over there. The car gets unstable, but we're able to hold on to it into fourth, into fifth gear, coming across the line, just at a 2 minutes, 0.6 around Suzuka. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have a great week of racing. Thank you for putting up with my stuffy voice. As always, I really appreciate all the love and support, and I'll see you guys next time.